to worship, I ask that we would just be able to listen to TJ really well tonight, that we would stay focused, and that we would learn everything that you have for us to learn tonight. Pray all these things in your name. Amen.
Technology is failing us tonight. Hello. There we go. That'll work. All right, guys. I wasn't joking when I said that y'all asked a bunch of questions. When I pulled up the questions yesterday, there were 16 total. We answered 5 last week, so that makes 11. Y'all asked 11 questions while I was teaching last week, which is I'm totally cool with, because they were all really, really great questions. And I'm always working in the assumption that y'all ask us questions on this particular subject, like you're asking out of sincerity and not silliness. I usually can pick up on what's silly and what's not. These are all just really, really solid. So again, if you're new to us, we're doing a series right now called Sex to the Max. The idea behind Sex to the Max is this: I believe with all my heart that sex is a gift from God. Like He's the one who created it. It's His idea. We're going to talk about that more in a little while. But because it's God's idea, the way for you to enjoy this gift called sex is you do it God's way. And I don't mean like there's like a sexual manual on the specifics of how to pull it off. Like we follow God's rules and God's standards, and that's how you can enjoy this gift of God to the maximum effect. So that's why we call it Sex to the Max. But in the process, though, giving y'all the opportunity to ask questions. So actually, Brooklyn, you jump down that one with the question mark on it and the QR code. You just leave that up for a little while. So giving you the opportunity to ask questions. That's that anonymous one. So for real, if you want to ask a question, and it's just something you're not sure you want to say face to face, you definitely don't want to raise your hand and use. That's totally cool. That's the way you can do that. So without any further ado, let's jump into these questions y'all ask. Again, these are awesome ones. So here's the first one. Why are so many denominations like Methodists or Presbyterians or Episcopalians accepting of homosexuality? What arguments do they use to support these policies, and can they be considered true churches if they ignore a blatant biblical command? So for starters, well done on using lots of big words there, and knowing what an Episcopalian is and a Presbyterian is. That's very, very cool. Lots of thoughts on here, but I want to start with this. What does the word drip mean? Style. Now, Lucas uses the word drip pretty often. Can you say that again, Lacey? Say that again. Yes. Yeah. Here's why I bring that up. Like, both are right? One's newer, last probably 5 years that we use drip in relation to your outfit, right? But before then, it was almost exclusively just meant water falling. What about the word bet? What's the word bet mean? Hang on. Like, raise your hand. Matthew. It means gamble money, but what does bet also mean? Yes, sure, absolutely, right? Both of those are correct, right? I was hoping one of you go bet. Yeah, right. Yes, both of those are right. Just one word is older. That's the same word. One is the older understanding of it, and there's the newer understanding of it. Here's why this comes up. The argument that these churches make about homosexuality is they look at the word homosexual, for instance, and hey, that word homosexual, that didn't come up till the 1900s. So when the Bible says homosexual, it must mean something else. Well, for starters, you got to understand this. The Bible wasn't written in English. You guys do know that, right? Is that shocking to anybody? Like, that's new information to you? Yeah. The Bible was written in 3 different languages. Anybody know what they were? Hebrew, Greek, and what was the other one? Not Latin. No. Aramaic. Very good. Yeah, Latin came later on. Yeah, Hebrew, Greek, and Aramaic. And really, it's predominantly Hebrew and Greek. And when I say Aramaic, it wasn't even written so much in Aramaic. That was just a language that, for instance, that Jesus would have spoken a lot in, right? So there are lots and lots of Greek words in particular that mean all sorts of things. But the Greek language is really cool. It's not only does the Greek word get really specific, but it also paints pictures, which sometimes you're like, oh, that's really helpful. And sometimes Greek words will give you a picture and a description, and you go, oh, that makes my eyes water and hurt. I didn't want to envision that. So there's this fun, not so fun word, and I'm sure I'm going to mispronounce it, but it's arsenakotoi. I can do this. I really can. No. Arsenakotoi. I do not speak Greek. I barely speak English. Right? I speak Texan. Arsenakotoi. Tie. You're like, cool, that sounds like a fun word. What's that mean? It means males who bed one another. And it paints the picture of what that looks like. And you're like, no. So, why am I bringing this up? Stay with me. That is the word that the Apostle Paul used, for instance, in 1 Corinthians chapter 6, and in other places when homosexuality, and not just between men, just homosexual actions were condemned. You go, okay, well that's New Testament. What about the Old Testament? The Old Testament's got even more. For instance, just it made it really, really simple. Leviticus chapter 18, verse 22. I said that backwards. Leviticus chapter 18, verse 22. It just said very, very simply, men aren't supposed to sleep with men, and women aren't supposed to sleep with women. Like, there's no way to misunderstand that. But here's what modern translations, when I say modern translations, I mean like they're taking words that we understand to mean one thing, and they just go, oh, that's not what that means. So they look at some of those words and they go, oh, no, I don't think that actually means like married couples who are gay. Like, that's totally cool because they're married. No, it's really literally just men who sleep with men, women who sleep with men. The Bible says that's a sin. Now, here's the other question, and I really like this question. The other part of this question was, hey, so like, can that church still be a true church if they're teaching these things? And this is where part of us is like, well, no, of course they can't. But actually, watch this. The book of 1 Corinthians, remember last week when I talked about the guy that was sleeping with his dad's wife? And we were all kind of like, that's gross. Because that either means the guy was sleeping with his mom or he was sleeping with his stepmom, right? Stay with me. Listen. That letter was written to the church of Corinth. Do you know how Paul starts that letter to the church of Corinth? Greetings, yes. Yeah. It's greetings to this is really important, to the saints at the church of Corinth, those who belong to Jesus Christ. And then he spends the next 9 chapters just absolutely obliterating these people because they are living so profoundly against everything the gospel has taught them. But here's what I want you to catch, though, guys. Really, and this is important. Right at the beginning, he says, to the saints. The reason why I'm correcting you, the reason why I'm saying these things is because you do belong to God. You are a church. You're just doing it wrong. Okay? Revelation chapter 2 and Revelation chapter 3, there's 7 different letters written to 7 different churches, and all of them at one get not obliterated. God is really, really gracious. God always starts with, hey, here's something you're doing really well. Here's something that you're doing awfully. Here's something else you're doing well. I love you. Stop it. I'm coming back soon. And in all of those, he called them churches. So while I disagree wholeheartedly with some of the things these churches are teaching, I can't in good conscience say they're not a true church, because again, the scriptures are full of churches that were doing things wrong, but God still called them churches. Does that make sense? Now, does that mean you just, okay, well, it doesn't matter where I go to church? No, it does matter. You should find a church that teaches the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth. But understand that there are going to be people that just believe things improperly. One of our jobs is to lovingly help correct people. But the only way we can do that is with the scriptures. So you can all remember that word, arsenicoitai. Arsenicoitai. Don't worry about that. Yeah. Just know that when the Bible talks about homosexuality, there's the other group of people that go, no. That just means that like men that are like forcing other people, so it's like rape. That's what it's talking about. No, it really is like any form of homosexual actions. The Bible considers that sin. All right, let's go to the next question. It was a good start. Is there such a thing as re-virginizing? Talking about made-up words or re-understanding words. Re-virginizing, and I first read that, I thought, well, I haven't heard that one before. It turns out re-virginizing is getting used more and more in our society. But it's this idea, there's actually two ideas behind it. One is an actual surgery that females are having to fix the hymen on their body. And if you don't know what a hymen is, go ask your mom. Right? Which, boys, if you ask your mom what a hymen is, she's probably going to know none of your business. So it's just a girl thing, okay? Kind of like girls, if you ask your mom what a foreskin is, she's going to go, none of your business. That's a boy thing, right? Nonetheless, there are people who have a surgery to re-virginize themselves. And if you're going, that's pretty silly, yes it is. Because the answer is no, you can't actually re-virginize yourself. To fully re-virginize yourself would mean like you've actually removed you ever having had sex before. And that's not possible, right? And by the way, the re-virginizing, the actual procedure, it's really, really silly because girls, it's possible for your hymen to break doing it in other things. Like some girls break their hymens when they ride a horse, right? That's a bad way to test whether or not you're a virgin. But that's something they used to do specifically in olden days, right? If you want to hear something really gross, like one of the ways that you would prove that you were a virgin, girls, the night after your wedding, you would carry the sheets out to your family and go, look, there's blood on my sheets. And, okay, yeah, good job. And you're going, that's gross and that's weird. Yes, it is. We don't do that anymore. Congratulations, right? So, can you become a physical re-virgin? No, that's not actually possible, all right? Spiritually speaking, though, and I'm hoping that's kind of where you're going, the answer is both yes and no. And here's what I say by yes and no. There is nothing, you should know this, there is nothing, we're going to start here and end here, there is nothing that God cannot forgive, including breaking his law sexually. There's nothing he can't forgive. There's nothing he can't wash you white as snow. The scriptures make that really, really plain. Nothing. All of it's forgiven. And when he says he's forgiven our sins, like they're washed away. He doesn't see them anymore. They don't count against us anymore. That's a really, really cool thing. So if you want to say spiritually speaking, you're a virgin again, that's fine. But you should also know, just because God's forgiven you of sins, doesn't mean the consequences of sin don't exist anymore. So, for instance, if I were to just beat the ever-loving snot out of Lucas right now, and I'm not going to do that, obviously. There's no reason to do that. Okay? I would go to jail, and rightfully so. And I'm like, tomorrow, I could go, golly, that was horrible. And I could very sincerely go to God, and God, I am so sorry, would you please forgive me? And I could even go to Lucas, and Lucas, I'm so sorry, would you please forgive me? And Lucas would forgive me because he's a great dude, and God would forgive me because he's paid for my sins. But does that mean like the state of Texas is going to forgive me for beating up a minor? No. Do I still have to go to jail? Probably so. Okay? Probably so. And probably rightfully so. So when I say that just because like you're forgiven and God washed away, that doesn't mean there's not consequences. So you don't get to, for instance, say, hey, like even though I had sex however many times before I got married, like God forgave me, so it's cool. So yay, like I'm a virgin. No, you need to be honest with your spouse. Yes, I've done this before. And be honest with your spouse about whatever the circumstances were on how or why you've done this. And then the consequence of that could partially just be you just have to have that hard conversation with your spouse. Which honestly, that can be a really cool opportunity, like just an opportunity for grace and forgiveness, right? But also though, when it comes to the consequences thing, remember that STD thing we talked about last week, and just any number of other physical things can happen a result of our sins. Like those don't necessarily, just because that's forgiveness doesn't mean those get washed away either. So no, you can't be re-virginized in that sense. But again, hear me, there is nothing that God can or doesn't forgive when we're really sincere to take that to him. All right, this next one's fun. What's the difference between fornication and adultery? Those are two very Bible-y words, right? Fornication and adultery. It's possible, by the way, to be both, but not always. Fornication is the act of having sex if you and the person you're having sex with is unmarried. Adultery is a married person that's having sex. So it's possible that a married person could have sex with an unmarried person, so the unmarried person would be a fornicator, and the married person would be an adulterer. But those, just the difference between the two. Now, all of it's, the Bible clumps it sometimes as just sexual immorality, but they're actually two different acts. And so, for instance, 1 Corinthians chapter 6, verse 9 says that fornicators and adulterers, like it differentiates between the two. So you don't get to go, okay, we weren't married, or they weren't married, so it's cool. No, it's still not cool, because the two of you weren't married. That's what matters, right? But yeah, fornicators and adulterers. The Bible differentiates two, but that's different. It's a really good question there. What if I don't want a wife, but I still want kids? This was a really fun one to think through. So let me start here. How many of you want kids someday? Okay. It's just about everybody. Yeah. Okay, how many? I think everybody raised their hand. If anybody didn't raise their hand, I don't want you to feel ashamed about it. Like, certainly at your age, like if you're thinking, I don't know if I want to have kids right now. For starters, no, don't have kids right now. That would be awful. I say that wouldn't be, that's not ideal. It's not awful. There are people your age that have kids and it can still be a beautiful thing. But stay with me. If you don't want kids right now, that's okay, because watch this. You're going to keep growing and changing. So, for instance, is there anything that you like right now that you didn't like 5 years ago? Yeah. Did you say tomatoes? Okay, great. She's very firm in that choice. Anything else? Something you didn't like 5 years ago you like now? Sushi, cool. She got sushi and shrimp, and I don't mean just food. Okay, there you go. You didn't like unicorns, you like it now? Awesome.
Okay, so there's this one Disney short. It's called Lava, the one with the volcano.
I love that one. That's great. That's a good one. Yeah. Actually, I bet because of the age of some of you, 5 years ago, you probably didn't care for the opposite sex so much, and now you're kind of like, they're okay. Yeah, they're kind of cool, maybe. I don't know. Some of y'all are still like, nope, don't like them at all. Girls are weird. Boys are gross, right? Okay, so the point is, I want to start there. Just because you don't want kids right now, or just because you don't want to get married right now, doesn't mean that you're not going to want to, for instance, 5 years from now. So I had a friend named Dennis. Dennis was 50 years old when I met him, and he used to hang out. He was this really cool volunteer at our church at the time. So Dennis specifically, he would hang out at the church on Wednesday nights, so when we had youth group, and he would like walk around, kind of be security, he would lock all the doors. Great guy. He was a professor at DBU too. Neat guy. So Dennis and I went and had lunch one day. I said, hey, Dennis, you're 50, man. You ever been married? No, never been married. Obviously don't have any kids. No. Never had sex. I'm a 50-year-old virgin. Wow, all right, cool, Dennis. Good job, man. So we're talking, and I said, but like, are you interested in getting married? No, I don't think I am. And I had lunch with him for a reason, because I had another friend named Renata. And Renata was a single mom, and Renata thought Dennis was kind of cute. But she was pretty nervous to tell Dennis that, and I was like, I'll tell him. So I tell Dennis out to lunch, and I'd be like, hey dude, like, I mean, I know you say you're not interested in being married, but you know, like you and Renata talk a lot. Yeah, I think Renata's really cool. Well, how cool do you think Renata? I think she's great. You should tell her that, Dennis. I think I probably have. No, you should like ask her out to date and tell her. I don't know. Like, you can't even remember the last time you'd been on a date. Dennis, I think you and Renata should go on a date, man. Well, long story short, 2 months later, they got married. That was awesome. So, I was a wingman, I was a setup guy, whatever you want to call me. Super duper cool. So, yeah. Which there's lots and lots of. Renata had a daughter named Shelby that used to call me dad. There's lots of cool stuff about Renata and Shelby. Super neat. Anyway, the point is, just because you don't think that's in your future right now doesn't mean that's not going to be in the future per se. So you might change your mind about marriage, you might change your mind about kids. You might like want kids right now, and then 15 years from now go, no, I don't want kids. By the way, after you've had kids, you can't turn them back in. So you can't change your mind now. Okay? Nonetheless, I will say this. Stay with me. I do need to say this, though. It's also possible that 10 years from now you go, okay, still not married, still want to have kids. Okay, I'm going to work on the assumption, because we've had all these great sex talks, you know that biologically you can't have your own children, because in order to have your own physical children, you would have to have the act of sex in order to pull that off, right? And I know there's other ways to make that happen. But nonetheless, maybe you're just thinking, man, there's lots of kids that need adopting. And you're right, there's a whole bunch of kids that will need adopting. And that's a beautiful thing. But I do need to say this to you. Hopefully you know this, but if not, like scientific studies continue to prove this over and over and over again, the best thing in the world for a kid is to have a mom and a dad in the same house in a loving relationship. That's what's best for kids. Now hear me clearly, because I know there are some of you in the room right now that that's not your situation. Don't hear me say you're worth less because you don't have that situation. Don't hear me say that you're condemned to a horrible life because you don't have a mom and dad living in your house that love each other. That's not all I'm saying. I am saying scientific studies continue to prove that kids do better on the situation. Man, God's incredible and God does awesome things through families. Okay? Sometimes, kids are growing up in single-parent homes because of stuff totally out of their control. It's not that mom and dad got a divorce, like just a parent died, or lots of things go on. What I'm trying to communicate to you is this, though. If you're making the choice, hey, I intentionally, I want to be a single parent, that's great. I want you to start thinking in terms of not only is this best for me, but really what's best for that kid. And what's best for that kid is to have a mother and a father. Does that make sense? Now again, let me say this 1,000 times, man. If you're in that situation, that's not your life right now. I promise, man, you are still every bit as loved and cherished, and important, and awesome. And that does not mean you're going to have a lousy life just because you don't have those things. But think in terms of what's best for that kid. You need to be thinking, like, when you become a parent, that is like your ever constant thought in life, is what's best for my kids. That's part of, I'm all the time thinking about what's best for Becca and what's best for my family. And that like, what's best for TJ needs to be 3rd or 4th or 5th or probably 100th, right? I'm always thinking about what's best for my children. So think about those terms. All right, fun question. Keep going. How do we show love to LGBTQ people that come to churches, but also make it clear that we do not support their actions? Awesome question. Remember that stat I talked about last week, how the percentage of people that are identifying as LGBTQ, that just continues to grow, particularly your generation. Like, you guys are seeing it far more than I ever did when I was in high school. And the kids that come behind you are probably going to see that even more. And part of that is just because it's considered to be more and more acceptable, and so more people are going, yeah, this is how I feel. And other people are just going, hey, that looks like fun, I want to try it out. And some people are just really confused. Nonetheless, though, the question is very important and legitimate. How do we respond when those people show up at church? So hopefully you know, for starters, that doesn't include, hey, we're going to throw rocks and make fun of them until they go away, right? It's not at all how we're going to respond. There's this wonderful book some of you like to read. I know a bunch of you do. There's this lady named Rosaria Butterfield, R-O-S-A-R-I-A, Rosaria Butterfield. She was a lesbian college professor up in the Northeast United States. And she lived next door to a pastor and his wife. And this particular pastor and wife, all the time, would walk up and down their streets and just get to know their neighbors and invite people to church. And they met Miss Butterfield early on. Found out she was a lesbian. She made it very, very clear to them, I'm a lesbian, I'm interested in church. They said, that's okay, you still live next door. We'll see you later on. And they were just super kind to her continuously. Well, that kindness got to her. She said, you know what? It's Easter, I'll go to church. And she did. And she went to church, and no one was mean to her. And she sat by the pastor's wife, and nobody was mean to her. And she said, well, okay, this is okay. And they started inviting her over to dinner like some of the other neighbors. So they would just sit and have civilized conversation. And the conversations didn't revolve around homosexuality, why it was wrong. They were just super kind to her. Now, anytime that topic would come up, they would be gracious. They would make their beliefs plain. Like, no, we don't believe that's right, but we still care about you. You're our neighbor. We love you. Long story short, a couple of years after this process started, Rosaria Butterfield got saved. A little while after that, she started realizing, boy, this life I've been living, she starts reading the scriptures on her own. Like, I'm just doing everything wrong. And so not only like her belief on homosexuality changed, but the feelings that she was experiencing, those changed too. To make an even longer story short, she's now a pastor's wife and she has kids of her own, and she travels the country teaching specifically ladies about this particular topic and how we can minister to people. And that's what that book is all about. It's called The Gospel Comes with the House Key. Right? Now, some of you are going, I don't have a house, I can't invite people to dinner. I know. But there are people that walk in this building all the time, every single week. Brand new people every single week. And the truth of the matter is, unless you already know their particular story, we don't have any idea what they think or what they believe or what they're going on in their head is. But they're people's. And so when people walk into this room or when people walk into that room, how is our response supposed to be? Good, you wave, that's a good start. What else do you do? Greeting, awesome. Shake their hand. I've tried to teach you how to do that, right? Hey, we're glad you're here. Hi, I'm Sloan. Where do you go to school? And you just converse with that person. Get to know them. Hey, come to our connection group. Come join our prayer group. Hey, did you see the concession stand over there? It's your first time. You get something for free, right? And then, oh, dude, you should totally come to camp. And we just make people feel welcome. And by the way, just so you know, and some of you may feel like I've done this, because I know I've said things to you, not to you directly, but I've said things in sermon, and you're like, dude, I didn't know he was going to talk about that tonight. Like, if someone were to walk in here that were homosexual and I found that out, I wouldn't quickly, change what I'm preaching that night to make sure that we talk about that thing right there. But I also wouldn't change it, oh gosh, we had somebody gay walk in, and I'm talking about, that's really sad, I'm talking about gayness, and there's a gay person here, I should change my sermon. I'm not going to be afraid to say the true thing, but I'm also not going to rearrange everything we're doing and saying just to either appease that person or to make them feel bad about what they're doing. Does this make sense? In other words, we're going to keep doing what we always do, and that's love people and tell them about Jesus, regardless of what their background is. And by the way, that's how we treat other people who believe and do other crazy stuff too. It's not just the homosexual thing, right? Does this make sense? I know that's not always easy. I know sometimes that feels sticky and hairy, and certainly when you see stuff in the news, you're like, oh, I gotta be so careful, I don't want to offend somebody, and I don't want to offend people either. But it is possible to tell somebody the truth about what God says about a subject and not be a jerk at the same time. And that's something we want to pray constantly that God helps us do. So, awesome question. I do want to point out one thing though. So we're going to talk about 1 Corinthians a lot tonight. It's an incredible book. Again, kind of a messed up church, but Paul just loves them and does some cool stuff. So 1 Corinthians chapter 5, verses 9 through 11. If you want to jump there, you can. But Paul makes a statement. He says, man, I've written to you before, and I've told you to stay away from sexually immoral people. Sexually immoral people. And they're like, oh, okay, cool. Yeah, so if anybody's living sexually immoral, I'm supposed to stay away from them. And he says, I need to give you a clarification. I didn't mean people that are outside the church. If you had to stay away from people who are sexually immoral outside the church, you couldn't interact with anybody. Certainly in the city of Corinth. What I meant was people in the church. Specifically people who are believers. So actually there's the way we treat one another, and you can definitely deal with the sexual morality thing, but really, the way we treat one another, guys, and this can be hard and harsh, but I want you to understand why. If someone that claims to be a believer is hanging out with us, but they're also espousing some things that are incredibly unbiblical and they're not repentant about it, Paul says what our response to it is supposed to be, okay, we can't really be super tight friends anymore because we're not the same anymore. And you go, well, man, why would we do that? The idea, Jesus taught the same thing. The idea, he said, treat the unrepentant sinner like a tax collector. How would you treat a tax collector? He said a Gentile or a tax collector. How would you treat them? Okay, yeah, if they're in your house, maybe. Yeah. You'd be kind and gracious, but you're probably not hanging out with that person all the time, right? Because they're a tax collector, they just took all your money. Gentiles, for Jews, Gentiles didn't run around with Jews all the time. I wasn't mean to you, but you're not my favorite people. The idea is putting some space in between, but if it's someone that's a believer, as they get outside the church, one of two things happen. most of the time, and this is what's supposed to happen, they go, golly, I've ruined my life and I miss all my believing friends and I need to go back. And here's what's cool about grace. When somebody comes back and they say, I'm sorry, and I believed a bunch of wrong things and did a bunch of wrong things, what do we say as believers? Yeah. Now, we say that not flippantly. We say it really easy. Like, oh yeah, we forgive you. It's no big deal. Sometimes forgiveness can be hard. So you work through all that. But the point is, we forgive people. But then sometimes people just keep straying from God and straying from God, which is really, really sad. But here's why we bring this up. If somebody, just think about like our little circle right here of, 75 people, how many people in the room right now? If you got 2 or 3 people that believe and do crazy things, now all the rest of us are pretty good, solid individuals, but 2 or 3 people that say and do and believe crazy things, what impact does that have on us as a group? I said if we have people amongst us, let's say 2 or 3 people that say and do crazy, sinful things. Everybody else is kind of flying right, and none of us are perfect, but by and large, we're living for Jesus, right? But there's 2 or 3 of us that are just saying and doing crazy things. How does that affect the rest of us? Say it a little bit louder.
I might be wrong.
It's okay.
But like, that one person can connect with another person, and then that one person can change.
Uh-huh.
And then that person changes.
Mhm.
And then,
Like for the worse.
yeah.
Yeah. Not good at all. So that's why they got to be removed. It's kind of like, again, like it's not fun to think about, right? I'm not thinking about picking somebody out, telling somebody to go away. But if I'm thinking about what's good for, I told you I got to think about what's best for the kids. If I'm thinking about what's best for y'all, some people don't get to hang out. Because I care about all of your well-being and mental health and all that stuff, right? So, again, that's specifically for people who are saying, hey, yeah, I'm a believer, like I'm part of the team. You are, but you're not living like you're part of the team, so you need to go away and learn some stuff. Okay, keep going. Kids, still, great question. Why do so many pro-life individuals and organizations refuse to support unmarried pregnant women and take away their opportunities for safe health care and social support for themselves and their babies? Guys, I love this question because abortion is a subject I'm really, really passionate about. And not like, yeah, abortion, like, oh, abortion's the worst thing maybe ever. If you want to get TJ crying, like really crying, get me thinking about or working with abortion-minded people. And I don't mean like I'm ready to throw rocks and fight people. Like it's just something that really makes me sad. So one of my favorite pictures I have of Anson, and I started to show it to you tonight, but I didn't get it put up on the computer. One of my favorite pictures of Anson was before Anson was ever born. It's a little bitty 4-month-old Anson, he's sucking his thumb. Yeah. Some of you are going, do babies have thumbs at 4 months? They sure do. Yeah, babies have thumbs at 9 weeks. Some of you have seen this before. This is a 10-week, this is not an actual 10-week-old baby. Just pull a baby in his pocket. Okay, this is a little perfect model. Kate calls it my wooden baby. It's not actually wood, but it looks a little bit like wood. But this is a 9-week-old baby. You can see, if I can pass it around, and I will pass it around if you promise not to break it or steal it. Hang on. You can see he's got 10 thumbs and 10 toes and 4 arms, not 4 arms, 2 arms for 2 legs. He's got a little tushy. He's got a neck and a head and ears and eyes and nose. Yeah. This is a perfectly formed, guys, stay with me. It's a perfectly formed baby. This is what you look like in your mama's tummy when you were 9 weeks. Unless you were a twin and there were 2 of you and you had a little bit less space. So y'all are twins. This is your life, right? So, yes, I will pass it around. And please, like I've had this thing for a week. No. Yeah, don't put it in your mouth. You're not a baby. No. Okay, stay with me. Guys, there's 100 reasons why abortion is wrong. But also, I reject the premise of this question. Because the question was, why are there so many pro-life people who don't support causes to support pregnant women and single mamas and dads? So, let me start here. Do you guys know why hospitals exist? No, no.
To heal people.
Yes. Let me rephrase the question. Do you know how hospitals started? Not in the army, no. No. If you had to guess, say it again, Philip. Church. Hospitals were started by the church. That's why so many hospitals you go to, Baylor, Scott and White, what denomination of believers is Baylor? They're Baptist. Yeah, they're Baptist. Yeah. I wish Evan Grace was here. We were going to get some great Baylor jokes in. Baylor, Scott and White, Harris downtown, Harris Methodist downtown, lots and lots and lots and lots and lots of hospitals have some kind of church denomination on them. That's because hospitals, as you noted, were started almost exclusively by Christians. Specifically to help people who could not afford health care of any kind. The church started with that compassionate act. So, do you guys know what Planned Parenthood is? If you don't, it's okay. Planned Parenthood is an organization. There's 600 of they call them clinics. Technically, they are clinics. Planned Parenthood has a really awful name. The idea behind Planned Parenthood is we help families plan out their families. Planned Parenthood is the #1 provider of abortions in the country. They perform a little over 600,000 known abortions in our country. Like they call themselves Planned Parenthood, but it really is the opposite of family planning. They would call it family planning, but it is. It's just lots and lots and lots of dead babies. Okay? There's 600 of those in the country. Now, that's not the only thing Planned Parenthood does. Planned Parenthood does, they offer pregnancy tests, they give away condoms and birth control. Just in the last 5 or 10 years, they finally started doing STD testing. The longest time they didn't even do that. They would just send you to a doctor if you came in and said, hey, I think you've got a disease. They go, sorry, we can't help you. But their #1 reason for existence is abortion. But there's 600,000, no, not 600,000, 600 of those across the country. You guys, have you ever heard the phrase crisis pregnancy center or pregnancy care center? Okay. A pregnancy care center is a place, and there's almost 3,000 of those across America. They are supported exclusively by charity, and they were all started by churches. And they do everything Planned Parenthood does and more, but they don't offer abortions. They exist for it's not just for single parents. Like my parents found out that I was going to be coming. My parents found out they were pregnant at a pregnancy resource center. But it really is. It's just a place where single mamas or young couples or even married couples can come in and say, hey, I think we're pregnant. And go, great, we've got a free pregnancy test for you. We can offer you a free ultrasound. We have a nurse that can meet with you. Hey, if you want, you can come back and we have free preparing to be parent classes. And you can earn dollars so that when your baby's born, we'll give you free diapers up until that baby's 1 year old. We'll give you a car seat. We'll give you a baby bed. We'll help give you baby clothes. We'll give you formula. Millions and millions and millions and millions and $1 million, all given exclusively by charities. And most of that comes from churches. When I say I reject the premise of your question that pro-life people don't support social causes, they don't support Planned Parenthood specifically because Planned Parenthood does abortions. But the church has done extraordinary things for decades now to support single women and babies, and they'll continue to. You want to hear something really cool about Lake Church? A lot of y'all know we have this thing called Embrace Grace. Just our church alone in the last 5 years, we've helped 27 single moms and their babies. And we've given them clothes, and formula, and diapers, and car seats, and baby beds, and tons more. Shelby's super involved with that. Shelby's done, I don't even know how many hours of free babysitting for those families, haven't you? She just really likes babies. It's amazing. So guys, anytime you hear that comment, oh yeah, pro-life people, they don't want abortions, but they're not willing to support a single mom, that's not even remotely true. And I offer that number, 3,000 versus 600. We have, what's that, 6, 12, 18, 24, 5 times as many opportunities to help people than the other groups, if you want to put it that way. Now, and I said that hospital thing, guess what? Christian hospitals, if a mama comes in and says, hey, I'm having a baby, they don't go, can you pay for that baby? They go, come in, we'll help you. They figure out the money later on. So don't believe that pro-life people are anti-anything. Truly, and it's so amazing what the church has done for people over the years. All right. I will say this. You might hear pro-life people talk about government funding for particular issues. So for instance, like a single mother, like I was reading today, a single mother with a baby right now can get almost like $24,000 worth of stuff from the government every year for the kids' life, which is cool, certainly if they need it, right? But people get frustrated about that. And the reason people get frustrated about that is this. So imagine, like if you are a young lady and you're having to think to yourself, and I say young ladies just because you're the one that ends up pregnant, right? Guys, you need to be thinking in these terms too, and I'll talk to you about why you need to think about it. But truly think about it these ways, girls. So you're thinking to yourself, okay, I've got a boyfriend, I really love him, he really wants to have sex, but I know if I have sex, even like if we take precautions, it's still possible for me to get pregnant. If I get pregnant, then I've got to make all sorts of hard decisions. Like, am I going to keep the baby? Am I going to put the baby up for adoption? Am I going to abort the baby? And if I keep the baby, like, I'm going to pay for it. I'm going to care for this thing. Do I really want to marry this guy? And all this stuff. Are you going to be thinking about all this stuff? And if you're going, those are really hard decisions. They are hard decisions, and you need to be thinking about these things. But if in the back of your head, if you think to yourself, but you know what, if I get pregnant, the government's going to give me a bunch of money, and there's all these people who are going to give me stuff, it'll probably be okay. Are you less inclined to make a poor choice? If you know that poor choice and the consequences of that poor choice aren't going to be quite so drastic as maybe what they could have been, the chances you're going to make that poor choice anyway are a lot higher. And so when you hear pro-life people talk about, man, we're really frustrated with the fact that there's so much funding and all this stuff for people who don't seem to care about their choices, that's what they're talking about. It's not that they're against it. We're all for helping people and truly gracious and doing everything to bless people. But we do want to make it harder for people to make poor choices on top of that. Does that make sense? Okay, cool. Let's keep going. Y'all doing great. All right, what are some moral arguments and scientific statistics that reveal the danger of abortion? So that's why you're pastor. Where's the baby at? Who's got the baby? Oh, Sloan's got the baby. Awesome. All right, keep passing around. That's good. Okay, just so you know, since 1973, there have been 65 million abortions in our country. Now, those are the ones, this is important, guys. Listen to me. Those are the ones that we know about. And here's why I bring up the ones we know about. There are 4 states in the United States that do not report their yearly, this is how many abortions were performed in our state. And I'll give you a hint. 2 of them are not small states. One of them, California is one of them. Texas reports theirs. Arkansas is not a big state. New York, yes. What do you? New York is a big state. It's substantially bigger than Arkansas. The city of New York City is bigger than the state of Arkansas. Always, since always. So yes, population-wise, stay with me. So here, why I bring that up. We know last year that there were a little over 600,000 abortions in the country, but then 2 states don't report their numbers. If you had to guess, do you think there would be abortions in the state of California? Do you think that's a small number? Probably not. Or the state of New York? Probably not. So again, we know of 65 million abortions since 1973. That's a lot. You want to hear something even more heartbreaking, guys? Every single year, there's 73 million abortions worldwide. That's a lot. 73 million worldwide every year. Every year, worldwide. Okay? Why am I bringing this up? I'm going to say something that some of you may not like, but this is one of those times like this is true, right? The largest cause of death in our world every single year is abortion. You know, well, does that really count? It does. Abortion, by definition, means that a life is ended, regardless of where that particular life was in the, what's the word I'm looking for? Gestational process. whether the baby was 4 weeks old in the womb, or 12 weeks old, or 27 weeks old. Thank you. Good catch. I have a lot of faith in my wife, y'all. A life is ended. It's the largest cause of death in our world. And it genuinely breaks my heart. Not only because I think babies are great, and I don't know how Becca feels about babies, but I know how God feels about babies. And babies turn into teenagers, and you don't really know how I feel about teenagers, right? They're great. I do love you, Lucas. Absolutely. So, moral arguments, scientific arguments, some things I want you to think about. You guys know what the morning after pill is?
I do.
Okay. You said that way too confidently. No, not everybody does. I just don't want you sounding like, oh yeah, I use it all the time. Okay. Yeah. Morning after pill. Like this study just came out 5 days ago. Up until 5 days ago, the morning after pill, which is it's a pill that women would take usually, but the idea is you take it a day or two after you've had sex. If you think you're pregnant, you take this. It's essentially like a triple dose of birth control that kills the baby, flushes the baby out of your system. Now again, like teeny tiny. If you think you're pregnant, you can take this and it ends the life. Up until 5 days ago, the common thinking was it's the safest form of abortion there is. It's just a pill. It's no big deal. And up until 5 days ago, it was 0.05% of the time does anything go wrong. Okay, well that's a really small percent. Cool. Like that's barely, I don't even know if that counts anymore. 5 days ago a study came out that said actually 1 in 11 women have pretty severe reactions to the morning after pill. There's sepsis, which is like a blood issue, or what's the word I'm looking for? I wrote it down, I want to make sure I get this right. Hemorrhaging, okay, or infection. You guys know what infection is. 1 in 11. 1 in 11. That's a lot. By the way, this study was done on 800,000 women who used it. Like it's a really, really, they've dug down into this deep. So all of a sudden now they're going, okay, well, crud. Like what do we do now? Stop taking it. That's what we should stop doing now. This, by the way, you can get these in the mail. You can just order them. You don't have to go see a doctor. You can order them from a doctor, but it's not hard to get it. It's really, really sad. Now, there's all sorts of other forms of abortion. I'm not going to get those details because they really are awful and really, really sad and really, really scary and really, really gross. When you're older someday, this is going to sound weird. Like I think it's good for you sometimes to see how gross and atrocious some things are. Abortion's one of those. Because abortion involves cutting and snipping and crushing. And the reason why they have to do that is because that little thing that you were passing around, that little teeny tiny baby, a lot of times it's in that window when most abortions occur. So the moral argument would just be this, like you are ending a life, period. Like you're ending a life. There's no way around that. Like no one ever gets pregnant and then nobody ever looks at you, well, I bet it's going to be a baby. Probably going to be a baby. No, it's a baby. It's absolutely a baby. It's absolutely going to be a life. It may not look like a baby right now. If you look at some of those, and I've got some photos, and it is pretty interesting, like as you develop, like in the first trimester, it doesn't always look like a baby, right? No. But it's absolutely, Lucas, what are you doing? Yeah. It's absolutely alive. And again, by 9 weeks, okay, it's still a funny looking baby, but it's still a baby. Some of us don't always grow out of that funny looking part, right? There you go. Glad you're listening. Moral arguments. You're ending a life. That's really simple. Biblical arguments. This is a big deal. Guys, you need to know this. Amos chapter 1, Jeremiah chapter 1, Luke chapter 1, Exodus 21. All of these affirm. Yes, ma'am.
I just have a question. So,
Go ahead.
when you have a miscarriage,
Uh-huh.
you remove the baby, it's technically an abortion. So how does
Your body did that work, right? So yes, from the surgical standpoint, a lot of that's the same process. But you didn't make the decision to kill the child on your own, right? That's the difference. And by the way, this is really important too. So Texas has been in the news a lot, so there's a whole lot of stuff. Man, like if I have a miscarriage, that body baby just has to say no. There's not a hospital. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And it's like that. It's illegal to have an abortion in the state of Texas, which also includes moving baby doctors.
No, it's not. There's not a hospital in the world, well, maybe not the world, not a hospital in this country, even more specifically in this state, if you walk in and you have a miscarriage, they're going to take care of you. 100%, yes. We got the nurse in the back of the room. 100%, they're going to take care of you. No one's going to prosecute you because you didn't make that choice. And the doctor didn't make that choice. But that is important for you to know, girls, because we've just got a lot of fear built around that stuff, right? So, what I was going to say about all those passages, Luke 1, Jeremiah 1, Psalm 139, Amos chapter 1, Exodus chapter 21. Guys, all of those affirm life in the womb. What I mean by that is, like, nowhere, we like to use all kinds of funny words like, oh, that's a zygote, or that's a fetus. Do you know what the word fetus means? It means unborn child. It's just Latin for unborn child. That's all it means. But we use it, that's a fetus. Yep, sure is. I agree. Still a kid. Everywhere in the scriptures, guys, this is super important. God affirms that's a life. It's to be cherished. The way that laws were written in the Bible, if you harmed a pregnant woman, you not only pay the penalty for harming that woman, you pay the penalty for harming that child. Lots of laws in our country do the same thing. It's always a kid. But again, there's a lot of different directions you can argue, but I do want to say this. Oh, never mind. You go, okay, but lots of women get abortions and then they're physically fine. You're right. You didn't talk about the emotional aspect or the mental aspect. I can tell you firsthand, not only women, but it affects men too. Frequently, study after study after study has been done that days, if not weeks, if not months after a woman's had an abortion, depression sets in. Not on everybody. Not on everybody, but lots of people. Certainly, people that, it's interesting, one of the studies I was reading said, you know what, as long as people are right there with the woman and they're supporting her and cheering her on and making her feel good about herself, she's fine. But if she doesn't have those people, she's not fine. So you mean like her conscience, something about her conscience that this isn't right, this isn't good? And you're right, like even your own conscience saying that I shouldn't be getting this life inside of myself. You can make that argument, but you need to know this. It doesn't mean abortion causes all sorts of harm. Again, not only to that child, but to the lives of the parents and grandparents even. But hear me say this really, really clearly. Remember that, what I said, how we treat people? Like, for instance, if someone was gay, came into our church, remember how we treat them? Guess what we do with people who've had abortions? Same thing. Because I will never forget, I don't know, 10 years ago, I got to preach. It's this thing called National Sanctity of Life Sunday. So just we focus on, okay, how great are babies, right? So it's kind of what we do on Mother's Day. We really focus on like brand new, not only mothers that are pregnant, but brand new born babies. So I get to preach that subject. A lot of times abortion comes up. So I'm preaching about this subject, talking about some of the same things with the whole congregation. I'm talking to you. And then at the end of the service, I stand down front, just like we do every Sunday, and people come up and pray with us. And this lady that was in her 50s walked up to me. And I've talked to her before, lots of times. And she walked up and she's got tears in her eyes. Oh my word, what's going on? She walked up to me and she's whispering. And there's music playing, so it's not like other people can hear her, but she walks up and she said, TJ, I gotta tell you something. What's that? And she said, I had an abortion when I was 20, and I've never told anybody. This lady was in her 50s. She was carrying that around for years, wrestling with it for years, and she was terrified to bring it up for years. Praise God, she brought it up that day. You know what I did to that lady? Anybody want to take a guess? I prayed with her, but did something just much more tangible. I hugged her. Just hugged her. And cried with her. Told her I loved her. And yes, we prayed together. And then I did not tell the congregation, hey, so-and-so's had an abortion. That would have been messed up, right? But it connected her with some people that were going to be able to help her and encourage her and help her deal with all of this stuff that she's built up for 30-something years. Because it has an emotional toll on people. So again, lots of different ways you can argue against it. Always start with the Bible. That's what matters most. But if you want to go scientifically, you want to go statistically, you want to go morally, all those things count. All right. Holy cow. It's 8 o'clock. Plus. I'm going to stop now. I'm sorry. We are so behind, guys. But y'all are awesome. I love you. Let me pray and we'll get out of here, okay? Jesus, thank you for today. Golly, Lord, I'm so grateful for every student in this room. Lord, I love how they're trying so hard to understand your word and to know how to interact with the world they live in. And they've got great questions. I'm thankful for that too. God, would you bless them, please? Lord, give them insight and things that I didn't say, or the ability to say. Lord, help them to understand your truth. Help them to pursue it. Teach us to love people, regardless of where they're coming from or what they've done. God, thank you for loving us despite what we've done. We love you. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen. Love you guys. See you later.